There's still round the clock search is happening. They're looking for little pockets, hopefully of like little pockets within the rubble where people could be surviving. At the moment, I think there's still 100+ people that are missing. So let's get started.
Just ran for our lives, and with nothing but just white, thick cloud of dust, and it was brutal. It just felt like an earthquake.
In the quiet hours of the night, the unthinkable happened. This 136-unit building near Miami Beach came crashing down. Security video from a nearby condo capturing it all.
This whole building right here is gone. The whole back side of it, everything to the beach, it collapsed.
There's going to be an entire building, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 to 13 stories.
Many inside running down to the street.
You okay, man?
Gabe Neer feels lucky to be alive. He just moved into one of the condos at the oceanfront Champlain Towers South 11 months ago.
I didn't think it was real. I thought it was a dream. There was a lot of loud, rumbling noises going on in the first collapse, and the second collapse was even more intense. I prayed that everybody would make it out safe if there are.
First responders rushed to the scene, searching.
Oh, chatter, it's worse in third world countries. Never mind then. We should not do anything about this then. Like, the expectation is that this sort of thing does not happen in America, which is like literally the wealthiest nation on the planet. That is the whole point. What good is it to have all of this wealth if you can't even build buildings that don't collapse? This is a part of the problem with how much Miami grew and how little regulation occurred around that growth.
Through the rubble for any signs of life, hearing a voice cry, "Don't leave me." Discovering this young boy, one of at least 2 people pulled from the rubble.
A massive search and rescue is underway, and we know that we're going to do everything we can possibly do.
It was a remarkable transformation. Here is the building before the collapse, and then after. A scene more reminiscent of Syria than South Florida. The scope of devastation fully revealed once the sun came up.
This just doesn't happen. You don't see buildings falling down in America. Here we had a building literally fall down.
The desperate search continues for those who did not make it out. This video shows the Miami-Dade Fire Rescue searching in the parking garage under the pancaked building. Another body was recovered from the wreckage tonight.
The problem with this also is that, like, these people are putting their lives at risk. It is very unsafe for it's very unsafe for all the people to go in right now as well, because like the building could very easily collapse on top of them. There were so many problems with the building: major structural damage to the concrete slab below the pool deck, abundant crackling and crumbling of columns, beams, and walls of the garage walls. Residents also complain about cracks in walls and water leaks. This is definitely caused by negligence and is absolutely terrible. I hope more people are found safe. Yeah.
First responders also driving in large equipment to remove debris and help in the search. So far, 3 people dead, and with at least 99 still missing, families and friends are frantically looking for loved ones.
They haven't been answering their phone, and they don't answer anything.
My colleague, Victor Okendo, spoke with Soraya Cohen, who believes her husband Brad and brother-in-law Gary were in the complex when it collapsed. The family had been in the process of moving.
He always wanted to live such a long life. And then, like, you would ever think anything like this could happen, and you saw that rubble. How will they even find him? And that there's no way he'll be alive in that.
Nicholas Fernandez is searching for close friends who were staying in his family's condo, making frequent calls to them.
And you've tried calling them, you're trying everything, you can't get a hold of them.
Non-stop with my family, just with the, like, you know, having like at least a hope of like maybe the rescue team will hear the cell phone and they will have a clue.
Also among the missing, dozens from South American countries, including Paraguay, Argentina, Colombia, Venezuela, and Uruguay.
It's very,
so far,
that is very Miami, of course. It's gonna happen. But
102 people have been accounted for. Families and friends have flocked to a reunification center just blocks from the collapse.
What is that process like to try and reunite those folks?
We have chaplains, we have different religious groups, we have different types of people, we have the Red Cross.
Here's the issue, okay? There needs to be some form of regulation pushed by local officials to ensure, which, by the way, developers hate this shit. They will consider everything I'm about to say to be the nanny state and awful and bureaucracy. You know, it'll increase costs for the consumer, the people that live in these apartments, the people that buy these apartments. Like, it'll be so terrible for homeowners, and they will lobby and advocate against everything that I'm mentioning right now. But what has to happen is like inspections that are routine that then have to happen quite frequently if an issue is identified. And an issue was identified here, from what I understand. There already were like a litany of different problems. Both the people that were living in the apartments had pointed to them, and also on top of that, inspectors had found it.
Everybody that could help these individuals, they're desperate to know about their family members if they survive this collapse. So we have every asset that we've learned through the years to be able to employ to help these individuals in their worst.
Just let Florida be Florida, bro. Stop coming in and changing shit. This is what you sign up for living in Florida? Yeah, no, totally. Come on, bro. You don't understand. Like, we don't mind it, dude. We'll just die. Who cares? But like, at least it's like, you know, cheap housing, right?
Moment.
The sheer scale of the damage pushing the president to make a vow.
I made it clear. I say to the people of Florida, whatever help you want, the federal government can provide, we're waiting. Just ask us. We'll be there. We'll be there.
The Champlain Towers South were built in 1981 in Surfside, just 6 miles north of Miami. 12 stories with 136 units. It housed a mix of year-round residents, snowbirds, and part-time renters. For decades, it stood against hurricane-force winds. The catastrophe happening shortly after 1 a.m. The postcard seaside town becoming choked in dust and smoke.
Attention, low hazard building collapse.
The residential tower suffered a partial pancake collapse, while many of the residents inside were sleeping. In mere seconds, 55 units reduced to rubble. Survivors saying it sounded like thunder. First responders started arriving on the scene shortly after receiving the call at 1:38 a.m. More than 80 fire trucks dispatched, making their way into the chaos.
I have never seen so many.
Literally, just coke houses, like houses built with houses built to hide coke assets. With shoddy developers who just wanted to make as much money as quickly as possible and hide as much money as quickly as possible. The lawsuits from this are probably going to be insane. Yeah, I don't know, man. that person who is from Florida who is joking about how just like let us be, this is how Florida is, you know, don't come in and mess shit up. It's unironically what I feel like the Florida legislature or the Florida like court system is gonna say.
Many ambulances and police in my life all at once.
Residents seeking refuge on balconies, waving down those rescue teams.
We still have people standing upstairs that don't need to be evacuated.
At least 35 survivors were pulled from the building. Then the urgent but delicate search inside began, compounding the difficulty, not knowing how many were actually in the building at the time.
This is obviously a seasonal community. That building has a lot of snowbirds, so we're not sure who's there and who's not there.
Walls ripped away, images frozen in time, bunk beds, where moments before, residents were sleeping. The parts of the complex still standing, with precarious concrete chunks, dangling wires and fires, further complicating rescue efforts. Search dogs being brought in to go where rescuers couldn't.
And the real heartbreak for me is that, you know, we had the dogs out there this morning looking for people, trying to find people in the rubble.
A trauma center nearby also jumping in to help, assembling a staff and supplies to send on site. Part of the rescue team included trauma surgeons like Howard Lieberman. He and a team of doctors packing up gear to take onto the scene, ready for any type of emergency.
Very often they need to do a field amputation to expedite or to be able to get someone out of a building, a car, whenever they're trapped. It's typical that initially you probably don't have any patients and they slowly trickle in over time.
Even though it's very rare, this is not the first.
There was a famous bridge collapse in Florida at FIU. And only recently did the federal authorities release the investigation that they conducted into it. The FIU bridge collapse. February 2nd, 2021 was when the federal authorities released their final investigation. Killed 6 people. It was blamed on design errors, but yeah, this happened. Happened before. It happened back in, I think, like 2018 or something. There you go. That's America, baby. I don't know what you guys are talking about. This is the land of the free, home of the new bridges that collapse. I mean, an apartment building from the 80s is not supposed to collapse this way either, by the way. Like, that is an apartment built in the 80s. Like, that's not supposed to collapse. Are you kidding me? That's not how that works. Oh, there was a DC bridge collapse that occurred, apparently. There was a pedestrian bridge that collapsed onto DC highway. This reminds me of living in Ankara. Like, I'm not even kidding. This is like some Melih Gökçek shit, okay? When I see stuff like this, I'm like, what am I, in Turkey? What the fuck? We got blackouts. We got rolling blackouts, okay? Incredibly Turkey to just like experience rolling blackouts. Like, I had never seen this stuff living in America, and I never thought that this was like something that was going to happen in America.
Hassle.
And we got, like, you know, bridges that are falling apart and stuff. It's crazy. Like, non-American chatters will know that this is stuff like this happens all the time in other countries. But, like, stuff like this happens all the time in other countries. And part of America's appeal is that it never happens in America. It's not supposed to happen in America, which is shocking to see.
First time that buildings have collapsed in the nation. In 2015, an apartment building in New York City toppled due to a gas explosion, leaving 2 dead and 19 injured. The most fatal building collapse occurred in Missouri in 1981, when a Hyatt Regency collapsed due to a structural failure, leaving 114 dead and more than 200 injured. But the big question remains, what caused this residential tower to fall?
It's going to take some
no
time to
signs of a
figure out.
sinkhole, no signs yet of a gas explosion. It's going to be a long and exhaustive search for the cause of the catastrophe.
But it clearly does happen in America, just like the rest of the world. It very rarely happens in America, and never to this degree, or didn't used to happen in America. And it's going to keep happening more and more frequently. You want to know why? Because our infrastructure is crumbling, okay? Our infrastructure is already crumbling. There is not enough funds to fix it. Like, it's not... These things are not built for forever use. You have to consistently fix it. Fear-mongering much? A school collapsed last week in Belgium during construction and killed multiple people as well.
was really quite shocking. They'll be looking in the field at the orientation.
For the record, it's Florida. How did this happen? It doesn't have to be a sinkhole, which does occur, I feel like, a lot more frequently in Florida than anywhere else for some reason. I don't know. It feels like God is unironically punishing Florida, but it doesn't have to be a sinkhole. A lot of this is built on swampland.
Gravity.
Which is not great to begin with. Get excited for, by the way, get excited for this exact same thing to happen in Texas as well, where it's what's the proper term for it? Same as New Orleans and same as Houston, where it's low elevation and areas that are built directly on top of waterways and as long as it's cheaper to let people die than fix the structural issues, they'll continue to neglect these crumbling buildings. That's why the shithole country thing was 100% projection from Trump. He was around these buildings when they were built. Yeah. Houston isn't swamp, but it's built on top of, it floods all the time. It's built on top of floodplains. So
thanks for the great content on the regular Hasbuff.
It doesn't matter if it's not directly swampland. Landslide don't exist.
Seven months of doom and misery.
I mean, you can build on a swamp. There's just ways that you're supposed to do it, and you have to be extra careful. I mean, look at Netherlands, dude. Look at European countries that make do with the limited land that they have. Obviously, people have figured out different ways of building on top of water, okay? So, Florida sits on porous limestone, not bedrock like many places. It is caves throughout. People overstrain fresh water, and saltwater intrusion causes erosion. The sand that makes up the state is also prone to settling. My parents' house foundation has been settling and cracking for years. The Aztecs were able to build on swamps hundreds of years ago. Talk about Death Santis talking about the border. I think that's the biggest problem with Florida right now. Is America's border security. It feels like it's a great opportunity to cover the real issues, like immigrants coming into the country. That's always a good idea, brother. I mean, yeah. Who cares if hundreds of people are still under the rubble in this shoddy building that was not built to protect people? What good?
Thanks for making
what
my
good is it
3.
to have homestead laws in this state rendering any authority unable to take your home from you if your home will just collapse?
Of the debris, the way that it's broken, the way that the parts are stacked up against each other. You can use a lot of that material to really try to recreate how the initiation of the collapse occurred and then how it progressed. So it's a bit like taking a jigsaw puzzle that's in a pile and trying to put it back together again.
One of Surfside's commissioners saying the towers had been scrutinized in recent years. It was up for its 40-year recertification, and that construction of a nearby building had led to some issues with the Champlain Towers' garage.
To my understanding, there were some cracks from that project, minor cracks, but they were just patched up. Nothing, based on my understanding, to the magnitude that would indicate that there's a structural problem that could result in something so catastrophic.
According to the AP tonight,
I'm sorry, boys. Here's the reality, okay? The nanny state needs to punish you and punish you severely. Otherwise, you're not going to get motivated to take action. No one, and I mean no one, cares about the safety of, like, developers don't care about the safety of the individuals living in their apartment complexes, especially beyond how it impacts their bottom line. Not a single person under a capitalist organization of the economy is going to be motivated by caring about human beings and following building code or anything like that. If there is no punishments for refusing to focus on a 2018 report and listening to the people that are living in the building, then if there's not going to be any punishments by the government, or rather the punishments are going to be, letting your LLC declare bankruptcy and every wealthy person that was like in the LLC absolutely getting away scot-free pretty much to move on to other projects, then why would they? Like, why would they care? I guess it was a condo, so it's like these are people who own those homes too. Like, imagine paying homeowner associations fees and then your apartment just sinks in to the ground and now you're dead. Like, why did you do that then? Sounds a lot like Greenfell. No, Greenfell was low-income housing.
Honestly, this
so it
would
was
never have
shoddy
happened if Biden
architecture
wasn't
on
president.
purpose.
Thanks, Joe.
Because they were trying to cut corners. And even in Greenfell, I remember plenty of people talked about the warning signs. Talked about how fire safety was not up to par, not up to code.
11 months.
Yeah,
Haas
flammable
boggies,
cladding.
Haas boggies, love you, Arjan, and chat hassle.
Grenfell. Yeah, not Greenfell. Sorry, Grenfell. Whatever. This reminds me of the time Joe Rogan had to tell Dave Rubin about the need for regulations when it comes to construction because of the corners that get cut. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
an inspector had been on scene as recently as yesterday for that recertification process. Investigators will likely look at other clues. A 2020 study out of Florida International University, which found that land in the Champlain Towers area had been sinking at an alarming rate during the 1990s.
I was like shocked because we saw that the building moved 20, 30 years ago, which means that whatever caused the collapse didn't start this year. It started many years ago.
Meanwhile, the search for the missing continues. First responders pivoting from inside the building to underneath the rubble.
Rescue teams are hoping for pockets inside.
The problem is, if you remove certain things, if you remove weight, it could reshift and then end up murdering someone who is otherwise alive in the rubble. It is a really tricky and very dangerous process, both dangerous for the firefighters, dangerous for the engineers, because the structural integrity is gone. So what you're looking for is little pockets of areas where people could potentially still survive because, like, you know, there's like, I guess maybe like a large plank or something was able to stop the collapse, right? So if they pull certain parts of the rubble, you could absolutely shut those little pockets up as everything settles. Not murder, but like accidentally kill someone that is otherwise alive. Like a column or a beam is what you're looking for. It's really interesting. I mean, I remember looking into this stuff in the aftermath of the massive earthquake that happened in Turkey, or like years later, just to see how people do this sort of stuff in like collapsed buildings. It's a really, really interesting way to try to save people. How did we build a Hoover Dam in the 30s and we cannot build an apartment complex in the 70s? Anyway, a lot of material science and engineering. It's really interesting shit. I think they use like, do they use sonar? They use like some sort of radar technology to see if there's anything that they can find in the rubble that's like out of the ordinary. Sonar, heat sensors. 1980s in Miami was a Wild West. Barely regulation, so much corruption and drugs. Hasn't changed much, honestly. Yeah, no, it has not. It's infeasible to remove the rubble top down. As I mentioned already, even if you remove the rubble top down, if you remove the rubble top down, you can run into other problems like collapsing the other pockets that are currently allowing people to survive within the rubble. I mean, people find people in these sorts of rubbles up to a week. So, you know, that's not there are probably a lot of people who are still alive in that rubble. Very likely. Hopefully, they will be able to get to them.
All of that rubble where they might find some survivors. They have been working in teams of 10 to 12, working until exhaustion.
Every time we start breaching parts of the structure, we do get debris that falls on us.
Their moves precise and methodical to prevent further tragedy.
They assess the structure every hour. They conduct the assessments every time there's a weather shift. We place seismic devices on the building.
While first responders have heard sounds of banging, so far they haven't heard any more voices. But no one is giving up hope yet.
Currently, right now, at this hour, that team is in there trying to find survivors.
We hope, with God's help, and we're praying that those sounds that we hear through sonar and the equipment that we have, that those are survivors that are in there in some pocket under all that rubble that is there, and that's what we could hope for.
This is my subscription anniversary, even though that's only about 1.5
Okay,
weeks.
I'm not going to do a top of the hour segue. There was an opportunity for me to make one earlier, and I thought it's like too messed up to do right now. So I'm just going to do a regular top of the hour, every hour segue right now. Okay? We are 1 hour in to our broadcast. It was the first of the day. You know, I felt some type of way about that. I thought about it on my own, and I was like, yeah, it's probably not something I should do here. So, there's a 6-second ad break coming right now. We're going to continue on with some other stuff, obviously. And if you'd like to no longer see the ads, all you need to do is subscribe. You can subscribe for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime. Or you can use an ad block or a VPN. Here's the ad break now.
The state calls its violence-based, but that of the individual cringe.
Dig out your Prime subs and rescue yourself from the ads? Okay, stop. Isn't it hella sus that the minute they address this problem, multiple things collapse? What do you mean? It's the sad part about this is that a lot of first responders also develop respiratory issues because of particulate dust in the air, just like after 9/11. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The going into these sorts of wreckage is horrible for the first responders that go there. Terrible. What the Monopoly Man won't tell you? No, I don't want to watch that.